Welcome everybody, I am Jessica Mila, Marketing Director at Primo. And today I am happy to introduce you to our first Primo podcast. The invitation is also to stay tuned with all our communication and social media. So please follow us on LinkedIn Primo, Facebook Primo Logistics, and Twitter Primo Logistics. This podcast is built to share valuable information that our Primo experts can provide you. This could be a powerful tool to have a better understanding of the industry, getting important insight to overcome the logistic challenges that we face every day. In today's podcast, we invited our Drayage and team lead by Alejandro Arboleda, our intermodal director, and some carrier sales of his team. Christian Naranjo, Sara Garcia, Angie Palacio, Mateo Villada, and Manuela Parra. They are ready to start, so I will give the word to Alejandro Arboleda to begin the episode called Drayage Challenge. Let's go, Primus!
Okay, guys, thank you again for joining us on this first podcast for Intermodal. We're going to talk a little bit about port congestion, chassis shortage, bookings rollover, and empty returns. So let's start with Chris Naranjo, the carrier sales for the Southeast. Chris, can you explain us more about the ports congestion in the U.S.?
Hi, Alejo. Yes, for sure. We're still experiencing congestion at major US ports, but what's the reason? It is a mix of factors that combined created a perfect storm that continues hitting the main terminal across the US. Chassis and equipment shortage and restrictions to return the empty boxes are backing up coastline from Oakland to Charleston. But also worker shortages triggered by Omicron variant are just a few mentioned. However, logistics never stop, and that's why we anticipate uncertainty, creating a pre-notice tool for each port and RAM we serve. This way, customers can plan their shipments and secure availability prior their container arrive, or plan and book their exports based on the pre-notice required for each location. To keep this tool updated, the carrier sales are in constant communication with carriers who serve these terminals, anticipating any change on market conditions related to congestion, drivers, equipment, or chassis shortages. This tool allows our sales force to advise customers and help them to make strategic decisions. It is important to mention that despite of worker shortages, transloading is the best option for deliveries if the destination is beyond 400 miles away round trip, and also a good option for those containers stuck at terminals that are accruing the demurrage and storage fee. To improve customer experience by giving them a short response time for rush containers that need transload, we have strategic partners located in New Jersey and major ports in the US that have their facilities close to the terminal and can bring containers into the warehouses to unload the cargo and then return the empty, nipping about extra charges generated by having container lay at terminal waiting for someone to pick it up. And last but not least, operations team work tirelessly, keeping updated all parties involved when a customer trusts Primo to handle his shipment. We do everything we can to keep our customers' trust in this family until the shipment is completed. To make that happen, we implemented P44, which is a tool that allows our team to keep import containers on track, checking in real time if ETA into port is delayed or advanced, so we can pre-alert carriers of the current status of that container and be prepared to take action when container is available for pickup. For exports, this tool helps us to be updated in case cutoff and ERD dates of a booking change due to continuous vessel and train delays. So we can instruct the carriers not to pull the empty if the ERD changed, and this way extra charges at yard pool, storage, and chassis can be avoided.
Okay, Chris, great information. Thank you very much. So let's dig a little bit more into the chassis shortage issue. We have Saris Garcia, the carrier sale for the Midwest. So we know the chassis shortages are being experienced in all the ports and ramps. Could you please tell us more about this and how Primo is facing these issues?
Hi, Alejo. Yes. We have been experiencing issues regarding chassis availability because of the chassis shortage. This is one of the biggest issues we face when we assign a load to a carrier because not all of them have their own chassis. The standard is getting the chassis from port, ramp, or depot, and this works first come, first serve, which means that they don't reserve chassis, they work based on offer and demand. So, is leasing an alternative? The answer is no. Well, not yet because the waiting list to lease a chassis is more than 1 year. In New York, New Jersey, for example, we have access to a tool called Track Metro Pool, where we can check throughout the day how many chassis are available at the depots. What is curious and challenging is that most of the terminals we work on are in Elizabeth, New Jersey. The depot located in this city has zero chassis available most of the time, and when there is one or two or five, it could happen that once the drivers get there, the chassis will be already taken most likely. This issue ends up in delays on the deliveries assigned, backing up appointments with shippers because the drivers cannot find a chassis on time. That's why we highly recommend to our customers to approve pre-pull the day before the appointment. The day the appointment is, to secure equipment and avoid as many delays as we can. An alternative is return empty containers when our carriers have the capacity to do so, but it is not a solution that can guarantee our customers to get equipment because not always empties can be reused after the unloading process as they need to be repaired or off-hired. We and our team work to find solutions when this type of issue appears, and we explain to our customers each situation so they can be aware and understand why we have to push out appointments that were set, or when the prices rise when we have found a carrier with better capacity and own equipment. We are currently trying to lease some chassis in Texas. We are constantly following up on the chassis pools. We might get a chance in Dallas, where we have seen availability of 600 to 800 in some depot in any given day. Unfortunately, something that was rare in 2021 and before COVID was seeing chassis shortage at ports. Now, when we check in on Houston, the maximum we have seen on a depot is around 40.
Sorry, thank you very much for this chassis shortage insights. Hope we can keep looking into our carriers for own chassis or have the availability to lease some chassis for future shipments or projects. Thank you. Now let's talk about the empty imports containers return that it has been an issue lately. We have Angie Palacio, the carrier sales for the Northeast. So Angie, what kind of challenges are we facing regarding empty import containers return?
We are facing some delays to return the empty import containers back to the ports, since some of the steamship lines, such as CMA, One, Janming, and also Hapag-Lloyd, are having restrictions at the terminals to accept the empties, so the carriers have to store the containers at the yard until the return location is available. Our tracing team, of course, along with the carriers, are constantly monitoring if the return location has been already posted to proceed to the soonest possible to return the empties. But please keep in mind to advise your customers that chassis rental, storage per day, jar pool, and per diem charges may apply due to the number of dates in which the container is out of the port. You should guys know that one of the alternatives that we consider in all of the regions to overcome this situation is to do a street turn for an export container, which means request to the steamship line to use this empty container to load an export load, and this is good as long as it's been, like, first of all, booked with the same steamship line, and most importantly is the steamship lines approve the street turn. Now, in such congested ports at Los Angeles and Long Beach, the way the terminals and the steamship lines have found it's to implement the dual transaction process, which implicates taking an empty container back to the terminal and pick up an import container of the same steamship line. And that improves a lot the containers flow and have a little reduction in port congestion. This option is unfortunately not available every day since it depends on the container availability for that steamship line at the terminal, but still has been one of the most efficient solutions that are being currently implemented. Finally, guys, to give you an update, in New York, New Jersey, we've been trying to return some empties over the last 2 weeks. That's not good. Not being able to do it as now terminal is receiving 20-foot containers for Hapag-Lloyd and empty containers in general for CMA, Janming, One, and even Maersk. We have shared a screenshot and a link with the customers where they can follow on the situation. But the good news is that we have heard about some successful cases where the customers have been able to fight back the per diem charges with the steamship lines. So we, of course, advise them to take screenshots and save them so they can try to get their money back.
I hope the customers follow up this pattern because per diem has become a huge amount of discrepancies. Previously, before congestion, we get like, I don't know, 1, 2 per diems per month, and I'm being generous here. But right now, we're seeing up to 10 per diems per month. So this is being pretty common. Thank you very much for your comments. So
Thank
let's
you.
talk now about the bookings. What is going on with the bookings with the vessels rollover? And for that, we have Mateo Villada, our carrier sales for the Pacific and Southwest. So, Mateo, how are the bookings being affected?
Well, hello everyone. What we've been facing with bookings rolling is that due to the frequent congestion at the main ports of the United States that represent the main reason for vessel delays, the steamship lines are constantly forced to roll their bookings. Since vessels need to weigh more than they expected to be unloaded, and so the loading of outgoing containers gets delayed too. With the terminals delayed to receive containers, it is also affecting the rail exports since they need to delay the inget of containers to the rail ramps to avoid an extreme congestion that may happen if containers cannot be sent to the terminals. In the end, for ports and ramps, customers are obligated to remain attentive to any steamship line updates on the booking dates, since these usually happen on the day before the ERD or even the same day, which usually is common situation we've been facing in some rail ramps and ports. These kind of situations sometimes is what force our carriers to take the loaded containers back to the yards, since these are already loaded once the updated dates are informed. And well, it gives us the first part of the situation. Considering that, it is very important for customers to keep in mind our recommendations about how to proceed with the export shipments, since we had some cases in which customer asked us to load the container without concrete information about the ERD or the cut-off date. So it takes, dates from the steamship lines to get moved, and they may not match. So it's always necessary to make sure that they're the same before proceeding so we can avoid extra charges such as redelivery, additional chassis days, storage days, and per diem, since the container will be in use longer than the steamship line usually allows, and it implicates very expensive cost from their side. And in order to do a correct planning for our dryer shipments, what Primo operations team is constantly doing is that they communicate with the customers and carriers in order to keep track of booking dates in the terminal so we can be one step ahead of these situations, bringing the best service to our clients. And guys, it is very important for us to be advisors to our customers. Like a month ago, we had a case in Houston where we have tried to save some money to a customer. The steamship line was telling us that the ERD was on the 24th, but it was actually showing at the terminal on the 27th. We discussed and advised these about the possible extra charges if container couldn't be engaged if we follow the steamship line ERD. The customer asked us to proceed as requested, and we did. But long story short, the customer had to pay a lot of extra charges to the steamship line.
Matt, great, thank you. We know we started doing the pre-tracking like 6, 7 years ago, pretty much focusing on the imports, as Brentag was our main customer, and most of their shipments are imports. But right now, the pre-tracking has gained a lot of relevance for the exports as well. Being in touch with the carriers, showing, checking on what the terminals are showing, are our best way to avoid all these kind of extra charges and keep an eye on the vessels rollover. Thank you very much again, guys. Okay, guys, so we have talked already about congestion, empty returns, chassis shortage, and bookings rollovers. So, what are we doing from the intermodal team, specifically from the carrier sales team, to try to tackle this besides the operation procedures that we already mentioned? And for that, we have Manuela Parra. She is the carrier sales for the channel, where we are pretty much working on all the rush orders that are not compliant with the pre-notice. So, Manu, what tools are available to help optimize the operation between carrier sales and the sales team?
Okay, hey guys. So I'm talking. I will talk about the channel. This is the tool that we want you to use for all the special requests. It can be rush orders. That means they don't meet the pre-notice, as Alejo mentioned. Also, if you cannot get a rate from the system, or if your customer has like multiple options to move a load and they don't know like which port or which ramp they should use, we can give them options about which one will be easier, faster, or cheaper. And we really need your help here. We need you to be very organized, because strict with the checklist, and not because we want to bother you. This is because it's necessary. Since once we start looking options, we want to go immediately to the right carriers with the right information. So because they are going to start asking for all the details like weight, commodity, steam line, and if at the the request, you provide all of this information, we can avoid like the back and forth with the carriers, and also they will feel that we really have the load, and they will want to work with them, and they will provide a quicker answer for us. That means a quicker answer for you. So here we go with the response time. We try to comment your post no longer than 30 minutes. So just to let you know that we are working on it, and we will do our best to give you like the rate and the options that we find no longer than 1 hour. So all depends of you. So if you do your job, we will do ours. In the last 3 months, we have had an average approval of 35%, with New York, Houston, and Long Beach being the ports where we receive most of the requests. In New York, we receive an average of 18% of the requests, 14 for Houston, and 9 for Long Beach, each one with approval percentage of 31, 30, and 36 respectively. And therefore, we work every day to improve our capacity and our coverage in order to increase this percentage. And we want to be able to respond to all of this. So we work in the same way with the ramps. Citing the average approval we have obtained in Ohio of 69%, in Kansas of 42%, and Chicago of 40%. So finally, we really want you to keep in mind that it's very important for us like to receive a feedback from the customers so we can improve our products together. Thank you so much.
So, guys, yeah, now you already know what's going on in the channel. Channel has been collecting data for the last 3 months. The channel is something that has been working already for over a year, but only in May we start collecting the data properly to give you this analysis, to know exactly where we are receiving those rush orders, what are the percentage of closure that we have in our win ratio. And remember that you not only have the control tower, but you also have the landing page for the customers where they can check pre-notice, market insights, and open spots. And finally, the control tower, where you pretty much on the sales team have a port and ramp profile, so you can check on all the aspects, on all the capacities and limitations, of course, for each one of them. Thank you very much again for your time. Hope you enjoyed our first intermodal podcast, and hope to get you here in the next one.